the Bible, like Mike Huckabee says. God provides a standard for absolute truth.
That's fairly universal.
I'm sorry?
That's universal.
Yeah, well, it's not just Jehovah, it's Krishna, right? And whoever your God is, the Code of Hammurabi, there's a stela in the Louvre in France that has the Vishnu, I think it's Vishnu, handing the scroll to Hammurabi, and then there's 200 some odd laws that are etched on this stela that actually predates the Ten Commandments, by the way, even if the Ten Commandments are historically true, which they're not. So why God wanted to preserve the Code of Hammurabi but not preserve the Ten Commandment tablets is really not defined unless you've watched Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. But God does not, in fact, provide a standard for absolute truth. God lies so that He can send people to hell. God shall, and this is in the New Testament, and a lot of people don't like to use the Old Testament because Christians have a schizophrenic attitude to the Old Testament. They don't believe it, but they want the Ten Commandments posted in every classroom kind of thing. So I pulled New Testament verses whenever I could. God lies so that He can send people to hell. God shall send them a strong delusion that they believe a lie, that they all might be damned. Now, other places, God is supposed to want people to be saved and all this kind of stuff. Not here. 2 Thessalonians, God sends them a delusion so that it'll be easier to damn them to hell. In 1 Kings and also in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, God actually asks a spirit to lie. Go and lie to King Ahab so I can kill him, because I promised I wouldn't kill Ahab, but I've changed my mind. I want to kill him. So go lie to this king, become a spirit, a lying spirit in the mouth of his 400 prophets. So we're not talking about one lie, we're talking about 400 lies. So that I can kill him. Now, Christians invariably say, well, God didn't lie, the Spirit lied. But God commanded the Spirit to lie. Now, if you command somebody under your authority to commit a crime, you're at least as guilty of that crime as they are. A lot of times the prosecutor will go after you instead of him because you're the mastermind behind the whole thing. This is certainly a standard that the Bible applies to everybody else, because of David and Bathsheba and Uriah. David murdered Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, but did not actually murder Uriah. He commanded that things be done in battle so that Uriah would be killed. Okay? He did not actually do it himself. And God held David accountable for that, even though he was dozens, maybe hundreds of miles away when it happened. So God certainly sets the standard that doesn't hold anybody else accountable. God actually, I remember when I was a Christian fundamentalist, they gave the example of situational ethics. Well, if somebody comes up to your door and says, Blair's staying in your back bedroom and I want to go kill him, then you lie so that they won't go into your house, right? And won't kill Blair. You make up something and say, Blair's not here, he's gone, he ran off. But that never happens. Nobody ever comes up to your door and says they're going to kill somebody. So, you're not going to be tempted like that. Well, actually it did. It happened to Rahab when Rahab hid the spies in her house of ill repute. And she flat out told them, they are not here. And actually in the book of James it says that Rahab was justified by her works when she did this. So Rahab got saved because she lied. Jael actually lied so that she could murder somebody. The Bible says, blessed among all men and women shall Jael be. There's an unnamed woman who had Ahimaaz and Jonathan. Jonathan was King Saul's son, David's best friend. There's some speculation that Jonathan and David had a gay relationship because they were always changing with each other's clothes and kissing each other. We won't go there in this place. I'm making this up. There's one verse in the Old Testament where it says Jonathan and David kissed until David exceeded. I'm not going to. I'm making this up. It's true. David's wife, Michal, did that. David lied, and he actually committed genocide to cover up his lie. He killed thousands of people to cover up the fact that he lied. And God says, that's okay, man. You're doing good. Jehu actually lied. He pretended that he was an idolater so that he could lure the servants of Baal in. And there's actually another interesting place where Hezekiah refused to lie, and God punished Hezekiah because he refused to lie. And this is in 2 Kings 21. God does not provide a standard a foundation of moral standards. Again, the legal thing. We see here that God, time and time again, committed mass murder. We referred before to the killing of all the Egyptian firstborn, and now the problem here is that they killed from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon. Everybody was punished with death except the guy that made the decision. Pharaoh was the one that decided not to let the children of Israel go. Did God kill Pharaoh? No. He killed a bunch of other people. Pharaoh apparently, I guess, was not firstborn. But there were hundreds of thousands of Egyptians that were killed in a single night, all except for the guy who he really needed to do away with. So there's a lot of places in the Bible that God punishes the wrong people. God commanded to exterminate the Midianites, which we talked about, Hittites, Amorites, and so forth. We've already talked about when David committed adultery, and there's some repetition here because it depends. I wanted to kind of create a handbook so that if you are looking for somebody writes a letter that says God is the foundation of our moral standards, you can very quickly pull this out and have very many good points, talking points to make why God is not a foundation of moral standards. So you can very quickly write a response. The really weird one is down here, number 5. God, it says in 2 Samuel 24:1, God moved David to number Israel. That is, God told David to make a census. And then God changes his mind, gets really upset, and kills 70,000 people. Now, again, David was the one that made the decision, and God killed 70,000 of the wrong people. And it was God's idea in the first place. So why did he do it? Well, we don't know, but he did. There's a lot of places in the Bible where you have saints that appear to be Teflon coated. King David is the best example. The Bible says David did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord and turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life. Saving the matter of Uriah the Hittite. This is a guy who sexually mutilated 200 Philistine corpses. And there's a reference on that. We won't go into detail about that one. But he did. He committed genocide on several different tribes. He ordered the slaughter of people with disabilities in Jerusalem when he conquered Jerusalem. So no matter what David did, except Bathsheba and Uriah, it was okay according to God. Of course, the classic example is slavery. I remember one time I was talking about 10 Commandments to a political group. I was in the state legislature in a committee, and I pointed out about half this committee was African American, and I pointed out that the 10 Commandments condemn coveting somebody's slave, but do not condemn you for owning a slave in the first place. And you can kind of see the lights going on. Nobody made any comments because, after all, they are politicians. But you could see they were like, wow, I never thought of it. And it's right there in the Bible, right there in the Ten Commandments, in 2 versions of the Ten Commandments. I want to say this about the abortion thing. God, we hear that God is against abortion and all this kind of stuff. But when God ordered the genocidal conquest of the Promised Land, all these mass murders that I talked about, He didn't make any exception for pregnant women. He wiped out the pregnant women the same as He did everybody else. There's one very interesting case in that Numbers chapter 31, when I was talking about keeping all the female virgins for themselves. They ordered them to kill all of the women who had known a man by lying with him, but saved all of the virgins. In other words, they killed all the women who could possibly be pregnant, but did not kill the women who could not be pregnant because they had not known a man by lying with them, because they were virgins. So when it comes to abortion, I don't think the Bible's really clear about being against abortion. There's certainly places in here where abortion seems to be completely irrelevant to God, where they don't consider the unborn fetus as having very much value at all.
I think you've seen some versions where it talks about when they went into battle against their enemies, where they killed a woman, where they would rip open a woman who was pregnant with a child.
Yeah, that's actually one of the conquering armies that came in that conquered Jerusalem and is said to have ripped up the army, the pregnant women. And I think you're right. I think it's very clear that the Bible says that was their punishment, which is pretty bizarre. on its face. But the out that